Trudy. Trudy called me one day, and that's how I first got to know her. Out of the blue, I was in my office and I get this lovely elderly lady on the other end saying, I want to build a library in Point of Rocks. And I thought, that's nice. Why would I build a library in Point of Rocks? But we had a conversation and she let it be known that her husband had just recently passed away and it was in the will that he would fund it. And I wondered if she comprehended the cost of building and operating a library. And then she told me that her husband actually was originally from Point of Rocks. And kind of a legend as a small child would go from door to door and get all the books from the people's homes and read them. So he had a real bond with the community and with libraries and reading. So I told her I would go take a look. So I drove down here and I started with some of the old storefronts that are out on the kind of the main street, the highway going through. And I just happened to turn up the road in front of the community center. And I saw the community center. I said, gee, that must belong to us. And went in there and saw an empty room, which I later found out wasn't empty, but it looked empty to me. And that started the whole wheels. And after that, I contacted Trudy back, and she and I came down here and we looked and we said, it's a possibility. So that's how we really kind of got started. It was the wishes of her deceased husband, who she loved dearly. And it evolved. This had to be, because there's no way we were going into a small community and start a whole library. We had lots of big libraries we were building, and this was just not on the map. And so it started.
Aunt Trudy used to work for U.S. Steel, and she moved to D.C. and worked in the government there first. And Uncle Ed met Aunt Trudy through various occasions, and they fell in love and got married. Uncle Ed was involved in construction business. He was an entrepreneur in a restaurant in DC, and he was very fortunate to be able to accumulate his funds and then being with that. And when he decided that Point of Rocks needed a library, he was the one that sort of propagated the particular involvement in that as far as establishing a library. But the catalyst of the library formulation actually come through Aunt Trudy. And Aunt Trudy was a trooper and a half to be able to find things to do, making requests. And she said that Ed always talked about the importance of a library in a community. It was his wish to be able to have it, and she donated over $500,000 to the library to be able to establish the Point of Rocks Library.
Not only on the establishment of this library was Trudy almost obsessed, but every day of operation from that point on. She would call me in my office on a regular basis, wanting to check in, how things were going, what we were doing, getting an update on the usage and the programming and what else we were going to do. This library would not exist without Trudy. She was very insistent on the name that be named after her husband. No one else. Her name was not to be included. It was honor of her husband, and she was like a dog with a bone. She just would not let go. And I have to say, that's what really moved it along. And when we opened it, you never saw a lady so happy. She was ecstatic, and the community was ecstatic. We weren't aware of the interest the community had here, and from day one they just took off. I wish all communities were as receptive to their library as Point of Rocks has been.
So almost since it opened in 2006, the reaction from the community was pretty immediate, and they were very excited about using the branch. But like most new buildings, we've seen that traffic pick up, and in the last year we saw over 30,000 visitors and 25,000 physical circulations, and that doesn't even count the digital products that were checked out by customers down in that area. So.
The library was so important to Uncle Ed because he originally lived in Point of Rocks, and there was no resource there for a library at that time, and he would pick up books in different places, and his general comment always was, if I live long enough, I want to see that kids in Point of Rocks have an opportunity to have a library that they can go to and be able to read and then get involved with the library throughout the community.
So the Fry family have been long-term supporters of the library, and not only in addition to help get it started, but they provided quarterly support to the library in an ongoing way to help us provide the best possible service we could down there. And without their support, I know we wouldn't be able to have a library down in the Point of Rocks area. We wouldn't have been able to. But in addition to her quarterly gift, on her passing, she had established in her trust a contribution to the library that was much more substantial, and that we received that contribution of $500,000 late last year. And so that will ensure that as this library maybe grows, that we'll have support, her support in an ongoing way, even though both she and Ed have passed. Trudy's vision for this was carrying through Ed's wishes to establish a library in Point of Rocks, and she was successful in that we have this space there now. But I think part of her vision for the gift that she's given is to see the library service expanded in Point of Rocks. And while she was here, she looked into that in terms of acquiring a building. That didn't work out, but there are options for perhaps expanding on the existing footprint, or even maybe down the road even acquiring land for a new Point of Rocks library that would be expanded. And that would allow us to not only serve the customers that are there now, but expand our services and better serve the community that's down in Point of Rocks.
I first met Trudy, I believe it was a Saturday morning. It was in the summer of 2011. I was working here at the branch, and she came in and she wanted to meet the new supervisor, who her contact was to be for all things library question related that she had. And so she came in, introduced herself, and I can't remember if she brought me ice cream, but I know she'd brought me ice cream one time and wanted to make sure that I was properly fed since I was working at the branch. But she just wanted to come, introduce herself, find out who I was, get a name to the face, and make sure that I was going to be coming to future friends meetings and making sure that I really understood the importance and passion with the library and the community.
Well, the Friends of the Library was an organization that Aunt Trudy was adamant that we be able to build a resource to help focus the library and involve community individuals to see the need, that the help that they needed at various times, and the finances that they needed for extra things to be able to be involved with as far as the library is concerned today.
the support of the Fry family extends. They have a large extended family in Point of Rocks, and while Trudy and Ed's legacy will live on, we know that we have community support and support from the larger family down in Point of Rocks. They have an active friends group, and many members of the family are members of the friends group, and so we know that we'll continue to have support from the family who wants to see this legacy carry on.
And over the years, I must say, with the Friends meetings themselves, my first meeting or two that I was here, they had 12 to 16 people at these meetings. And that was the most that I had ever seen at any one meeting, and I still have not seen that kind of attendance since. And I asked somebody one time, and they said it just comes with the passion and the love that they have for Trudy Fry. And they wanted to not only be here because they loved her, but also supported her in all of her endeavors for the library and for what the importance of it's in the heart of the community.
It would be great if anybody was interested in getting involved with the Friends of the Library in Point of Rocks. We're always looking for new members. You can make a donation, join the Friends group. We're also always looking for volunteers. Our Friends group also has a quarterly meeting every year. So feel free, if you're interested, to stop in to get some more information or call down to the library, and we can put you in touch with some more information about helping out our local community in Point of Rocks, Maryland.
The first time we met Trudy and went to her house, she took us downstairs, and it was like almost like a huge man cave, except every wall was shelves from floor to ceiling, and every shelf was filled with books. There were well over 1,000 books down there spread around, far more than that. Mostly with history, government, politics. That was his interest, law. Yeah. And she walked down and said, "This is the library." Well, we thought if you like 2 or 3 subjects, it's the library, but we have to have broader. But we realized she was willing to give away everything her husband had collected in order to get a library to the public. Not a lot of people would do that. That was an exceptional woman. I've met very few like her. I would not cross her, however, to be very honest. For those who knew Trudy and knew her background in government, she was a secretary to presidents of the United States, the U.S. Supreme Court. Once she set her mind on something, it was done. And that's what she did with this library.
And so from time to time, Trudy would come in. Sometimes she'd bring Sarah with her, or whoever was with her for the day, and she would bring extra ice cream. We have a creamery down around the corner, and she would come and have extra and make sure to know that they were in the freezer and to make sure that we got us something before we left. We knew that she really liked what we did, and she told us all the time, "I love what everyone's doing here. This is just great." I can still hear her voice in my head telling me and telling the staff, how great and wonderful everything is and how proud she is of everything that we do, and always thanking us each and every day that she was here. I'll always remember when we were getting ready for the 10th birthday back in September of 2016. But once before that, she was handwriting for all of the politicians and other important people she wanted to be there. She was still doing the handwritten notes with a stamp, making sure that everybody came and they were personally invited by her, and that they wanted to come and share all the excitement that she had for the branch and come and share the special day and to get as much attendance and publicity out there as possible.
I first met Trudy in 2006 at the original opening of the Edward Fry Library in the Point of Rocks Ruritan Center. And at that point we were very excited to actually be adding a library into that community, and we were able to do that with her generosity. So I didn't see Trudy very often, but whenever I did see her, it was always in relationship to the library and to one of the events that was happening at the library. And so she was a remarkable woman. She really led a very interesting life, particularly for a woman of her time period. She had some remarkable experiences in her working career, whether it was in the White House or at the United States Supreme Court, where she really made sure that things functioned well there. And so she had some really fabulous experiences throughout her life. But her passion was really about making sure that she implemented her husband's dream to have this library in Point of Rocks, and his desire and love to share reading and books with the community. And I fondly like to think of her as somebody who really had a force of nature. She really knew what she wanted to do, was very gracious and kind, but you could tell that she was not going to be someone who would be easily fooled, and that when she was on a mission to get something done, she was going to march in that direction to make sure that it did happen. And that's really, I think, reflective of her whole life of moving things forward to get them accomplished. I remember her being very excited and very surprised with the 10th anniversary of the library when her portrait was unveiled to be at the library. I think she was very surprised by that, but she also really loved it. And I think it's very difficult sometimes to find a painting or a photograph of somebody that they'll really be happy with. And so she was very excited about that. And you know, she called me and talked to me a couple of years ago about, because she really wanted me to understand and know how she wanted her funds to be used in support of the library, both in the near term and in the long term. And again, I think that was really part of her drive to make sure that what she wanted to get done would get done. And so I think she was a very kind and obviously very generous person, but I think she was really remarkable in her mission to really accomplish her goals and her love of her husband, and to do this library in his memory.
One of the first stories that I think about is, you know, when I came back to Frederick after a hiatus in Carroll County, one of the first meetings Daryl took me to, Daryl Batson, our previous director, was to a meeting at Trudy's house, where she kind of talked through, you know, what her vision was for helping establish the library, and you know, the way that she's been was happy to see it grow and wanted to see it continue. And you know, part of that meeting was knowing that Daryl would be retiring soon. She wanted to make sure that, you know, someone in the organization was aware of you know, what their purpose was in starting the building, and having in Ed's vision as well, her husband. And so you know, it was a great conversation to see someone that was so passionate, of course, about starting the library, and to get an understanding of the reasons why they did it.
You know, there's only one Trudy. After we opened up this library, the community of Adamstown, I believe that was it, where she actually lived, came to us and said, "We want a library too." I said, "Fine, find me another Trudy and you can have your library too." There was only one Trudy, and Point of Rocks was fortunate to receive her endeavors.
Trudy was remarkable, and it really demonstrates how one person can make a difference in a community and leave a lasting legacy to the future of that community. And so I think she has accomplished that, and that she will always fondly be remembered by her family and friends, and by the patrons of the library in Point of Rocks. And so I think she's really made a difference to our community, and has played an important part of making sure that we have a bright future.